G'day, I'm Phil. In my first video, I talked about why I've started this channel and why I want the second half of my life to be better than the first. Today, I thought I'd answer a question that naturally follows on from that. How did I end up here? How did a bloke who played footy and cricket as a teenager end up weighing more than 130 kilos and worrying about whether he'd still be around in 10 or 15 years' time? The answer is actually pretty simple. As a teenager, I was actually fairly athletic. I played Aussie rules and cricket, and I was active most of the time. But when I left school, things changed. Like most people, I had to work. Sport wasn't such a big part of my life anymore, and from the age of about 21, my weight started gradually increasing. Not dramatically, not all at once, just gradually. At the time, I wasn't too worried about it. I was still under 100 kilos, and honestly, I thought I'd just filled out a bit. I knew I'd gained some weight, but I wasn't particularly concerned. I was alright for now. Looking back, I think that's probably a phrase a lot of people tell themselves. I certainly did. There was a period in my mid-20s when I joined a gym. I went for a while and enjoyed it. But life got busy and eventually it fell by the wayside. Marriage came along, kids came along, work was busy. There always seemed to be something more important demanding my attention. Then one day I stepped on the scales and realised I'd gone over 100 kilos. I remember that felt like a bit of a milestone, and not a good one. By then I was married with young children and life was very busy. I tried a few diets over the years, but nothing really seemed to stick. The truth is, I still thought of myself as a sporty bloke who happened to be carrying a little bit of extra weight. At the same time, I knew I was overweight. Both things were true. And because there were plenty of other people around me who were carrying a little bit of extra weight, it didn't seem all that unusual. Mum struggled with her weight for most of her life. My father carried some extra weight as well, although he eventually took up running. Friends carried extra weight, workmates carried extra weight. I wasn't the heaviest person in the room, and when something becomes normal, it's easy to stop paying attention to it. Looking back now, I think one of the best contributors to my weight gain wasn't any one food, it was habits. Small habits that didn't seem like much at the time. For example, every time I went to the supermarket, I'd buy a cake and a chocolate milk and a chocolate bar. It didn't matter whether I was there buying healthy food for dinner or not. It was just a habit. Something I did without thinking about it. And that's one thing I've learned. Weight gain isn't usually one big decision. It's thousands of little decisions that seem harmless at the time. Over the years, those habits add up. The exercise becomes less frequent. Life becomes busier. You don't pay as much attention to what you're eating. And then one day you look in the mirror and wonder how you got there. A number of years ago, I decided enough was enough and I lost about 40 kilos. I was motivated by exactly the same thing that motivates me today. I wanted to improve my health. I wanted to be around for my family. I downloaded an app, tracked my calories carefully and stayed in a calorie deficit. And it worked. I lost the weight. I was proud of myself. I got a lot of positive comments and encouragement. Most importantly, I learned something valuable. I learned that weight loss is possible. A calorie deficit works. The problem was that I didn't do everything right. I wasn't paying attention to protein. I lost weight, but also muscle. Back then, I didn't fully understand the importance of preserving muscle mass while losing fat. That's one of the reasons my approach today is different from the approach I took back then. Sometimes you have to learn from your mistakes, and that's okay. But the lessons do get harder. If you can do things properly the first time, life is usually a lot easier. Then came 2021. I suffered a work injury that changed a lot of things. Almost overnight, I went from getting up and going to work each day to spending most of my time sitting around at home. I wasn't sleeping well because of pain. My weight started increasing rapidly. Eventually, I developed sleep apnea. The stress of not working didn't help. The lack of sleep didn't help. Feeling sorry for myself certainly didn't help. And within about a year, I went from around 100 kilos to roughly 125. The cycle became harder and harder to break. Poor sleep made exercise harder. Exercise became less consistent. The weight increased. Then the extra weight made everything else harder. It became a vicious cycle. Eventually I reached a little over 130 kilos. At that point, I was struggling with aches and pains. I couldn't breathe as easily as I used to. Sleeping was difficult. And for the first time in my life, I started seriously worrying about my future. I began asking myself some uncomfortable questions. If I keep going like this, would I still be here in 10 years? 15 years? What sort of a life was I heading towards? When I eventually returned to work, I joined a gym again. At first, I made another mistake. I thought if I simply built some more muscle, my metabolism would improve and my weight would gradually take care of itself. But after a while, I realised something important. I still needed a calorie deficit. I still needed to pay attention to what I was eating. There wasn't going to be a shortcut. And that's really where I find myself today. Not at the finish line, not with everything figured out, just further along the journey than I was before. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that weight gain doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually, one habit at a time, one decision at a time. And recovery is much the same. There isn't a magic solution. There's no quick fix. There are simply better decisions repeated over time. That's what I'm trying to do now. Not perfectly, just consistently, one step at a time. Thanks for watching. If you found yourself drifting in some area of your life, whether it's your health or something else entirely, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Take care, and one step at a time.